things that every woman needs to know about men. Now, again, this doesn't mean every last single man. I do believe that everything I'm about to mention applies to the majority of men, but you have exceptions to every rule. So let's get to it. The first thing women need to know about men is that men do want a relationship. Now, I know I stuttered, maybe because I'm not lying. But listen, I know some of y'all think that's ridiculous because these men are out here in this street um, not wanting commitment, not wanting to be serious. And again, that's a misunderstanding of what's really going on. So I wish I would have brought it with me, but there is a recent study showing how I think it was like 60 something percent of men are looking for a relationship. And believe it or not, the survey showed that women at a much lower percentage, I want to say like 40 something percent, if not lower, were looking for a relationship. So more women are essentially mentally or emotionally checked out versus men. But regardless of this survey, this study that they did, I can tell you as a man who, though my following on social media leans heavier towards women, a lot of men, they may not be as vocal about it, but they want it. Now, the other reason why this misunderstanding has been created is because just because a man wants a relationship in general, that doesn't automatically mean he will want it with you. Now, I don't say that to you to disrespect or make you feel bad or throw shade in any kind of way. That's just the reality of it. Same way you're going to meet men that you don't want to be with. It doesn't make you a woman who doesn't want a relationship. You just don't feel like that's the guy for you. Now, the difference is a woman, even if she doesn't recognize that man as someone that she wants to seriously be with, she will either stop dealing with him or she has no problem still stating a relationship is something that she wants. Men, on the other hand, if they meet a woman, they're attracted to her. And again, deep inside, they want a relationship in general. But they identify that with this woman in particular, they're not trying to pursue that with her. So with her, they will say, I'm not looking for anything serious. I don't want a relationship. I don't believe in marriage, all these different things. And a lot of times, that's just to make sure you don't hold him to that standard. Almost everyone wants relationship, okay? Now, the second thing women need to know about men is that men, and I use these words a little loosely, but men need to feel wanted, desired, and useful, okay? And we can even throw in needed, right? So let's start with this needed part. I say I'm using the word loosely because I think sometimes we misuse the word need as far as my perception is concerned. And I think that to me, the only things that we need in life is water and God, as far as if you ask me, right? But we use the word need in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different contexts. So I think don't get too stuck on the word need, but at the end of the day, the man wants to feel like he has a place in your life, a place that he can apply himself and bring value to you. Now, again, some of y'all may laugh because you're like, these men don't be looking to do anything and be useful in any way. Those are the men who are just trying to use you, manipulate you, who don't truly love you. So the caveat here is he has to genuinely care about you, genuinely love you. And I will say, if a man is not looking to bring value into your life in any way, that's a sign for you right there that this guy's not serious. All right? Because no man who's really into you is going to sit back and let you do everything. That's not the way the man operates. And that's why creating space for him to do for you is a good and beautiful thing. Because what happens, unfortunately, with a lot of you ladies is that some of you have become so accustomed to being independent and doing everything on your own. And you don't realize that you have this natural inclination to deny offers for help. Like, be mindful of that when you're dealing with men because they need that in the relationship. But also, before we move on to the next point, I mentioned men want to feel desired. Listen, I love y'all, but the relationship ain't all about y'all, all right? It ain't all about the man making you feel good and showing you desire and making all the effort, and you not doing the same for him. And you gotta understand that making him feel desired isn't just based off of, how you feel that should be conveyed. It's about learning how he likes to feel desired, what he needs from you. Essentially, learning his love language, all right? Just as he should be learning yours, but make sure you've taken time to understand what speaks to his heart, what makes him feel like you are into him, okay? Third thing you need to know about men, and please hear me out, because some of y'all ain't gonna like this one, but just listen. Men are not dogs, they are just wired differently. All right? We are just wired differently. So, what am I talking about? We were just talking about initiating intimacy. And the reality is that, listen, on average, men tend to have a higher priority on intimacy, sex, than the average woman. And I stress that because that doesn't mean there aren't women who are just as sexually driven or has just as high of a sex drive as a man. That exists. But I'm talking on average. Typically, it's going to be more desired and more prioritized on the man's side than it is on the woman's side. Now, a lot of women sometimes view that as like these men just lack self-control, or these men are just, they don't know how to handle themselves and be disciplined, all these different things. And though that might exist among some men, I think there's a lack of understanding that men are wired very differently than women by nature. Okay, that's not me trying to make an excuse for it. It's the reality of it. Average woman's testosterone levels is from 10 to 90, I believe the range is. All right, and I think what I read was peak level on, and these are just really rare exceptions of women, you might hit a 200 for a woman. Okay, keep that in mind. For men, the range typically is 300 to 1,000. Meaning, on a man's worst day, okay, in many cases, he still has more testosterone than a woman on her greatest day. There's a huge gap. Now, granted, there's a lot more to libido and sexual desire than just testosterone, but it plays a huge role. The point is, just by our biological wiring, we are going to be different. We are going to have a higher level of it, or higher level of desire for it. And the reason why that's so important for you to respect, understand, and embrace is because if the desire is to be in a relationship, and more specifically in a marriage, sexual disconnect is one of the greatest issues that many marriages face. It happens so often. And again, I believe that it's because we do not respect, understand, and embrace the differences between the man and the woman. If anything, we need to figure out how we can get on the same page of it. Or before we even get to that marriage part, we need to have deeper discussions about what the expectations are, what's going to be satisfactory, how we need to show up in this area to make sure we are on the same page and we can create harmony in this relationship. So you as a woman, though you may not be wired like him, you have to respect and honor it if the goal is to create healthy, happy relationships. So, and the next thing you need to know about men is that men can be very emotionally fragile with the woman that they love. All right. So the reality is that I know a lot of you are accustomed to dealing with men who seem very emotionally detached, very emotionally unbothered, don't really care. Like some of y'all may even question, do men have feelings? And they do. They have tons of feelings. It's just that for some, it's an issue of just suppressing it and not knowing how to deal with it and handle it and letting it out. For others, it may just be because he's not serious about you, so there are no feelings there for him to let out. He's just trying to navigate the situation casually and get what he's looking for out of it. And then for some, there's a level of fear of opening up in that way. But regardless of where a man stands, the point that I'm trying to drive here is when he's genuinely into you, when he genuinely cares, he becomes more fragile to how you treat him, more fragile to the words you use with him. Basically, the woman a man cares for has the power to build him up and inspire him, but just as quickly tear him down and destroy him. Plain and simple. And this is why some men become scared of allowing themselves to be with a woman they have deep feelings for is because they've been burned before. And I'm not validating this approach, I'm explaining it. Many men who have been hurt feel like when they allow themselves to be vulnerable, it backfired. They felt weak. They felt like they lost respect. And what they aren't realizing is that those may all be symptoms of you were dealing with the wrong woman, number one. And number two, you may have been crossing a line where you didn't have enough respect for yourself. How can you expect others to respect you? You know, and I won't get too deep into that right now, but it's something that we have to understand our role in how people receive us or perceive us in certain moments and address the deeper things within us that may have caused or contributed to some of those unpleasant experiences. But getting back to the point that the man is more fragile when he cares about you. And that's why, as a woman, you've got to be really careful with maybe falling into certain bad habits of how you might speak to a man. Because again, you may have, let's just say you dated 5 guys in a row who were all on some nonsense, right? And because of that, you may have engaged in talking harshly and saying certain things, you know, and in toxic behaviors, whether you fully realize that or not. Now you meet this new guy, and he's actually a good dude. He actually cares about you, but you haven't resolved and released all that past trauma from those previous experiences, all that hurt, all that negative energy that you might still be holding on to. And then you don't realize how you're now putting it onto him. All right. And for him, those other guys, they were able to take those punches more because they didn't care about you as much. So it's easy for the guy who's toxic and doesn't truly care about you, is just trying to be with you for his own selfish reasons. He can deal with your talking disrespectfully to him and all these different things, or it doesn't hurt him or push him away like it will the guy who actually cares about you. All right, that's gonna hit him harder. So this is why you want to make sure that you are always speaking in love. You're always speaking with positive energy. And if the man who you are dating cannot honor and respect that, then that is your sign that he's not someone you should be dealing with right now.